At the airport, she turned to me and said, "Don't walk with me. Liam, you'll embarrass me in front of my friends." That one sentence split my world in half. For a few seconds, I thought she was joking, some kind of nervous humor before her big trip. But when I saw the look in her eyes, that cold flicker of discomfort, I realized she meant it. And worse, she was ashamed of me. My girlfriend, Emily, always had a flair for appearances. Where I saw moments, she saw content. Where I felt life, she saw lighting. For nearly 2 years, that difference had seemed harmless. Even charming, her photos, her videos, the little vlogs of our daily life. But over time, it became clear that I wasn't her partner anymore. I was her background 6 months ago. Emily quit her job at a high-end fragrance boutique to become a luxury lifestyle influencer. She said it was her true calling. I believed in her dream, or maybe I just wanted to believe in us. So I agreed to cover our rent and major bills while she built her brand. She promised to use her savings for her content and travel expenses. It was supposed to be temporary, a 6-month experiment. But within weeks, the business expenses looked a lot more like shopping halls, perfumes, designer scarves, and endless cafe brunches labeled collabs. I watched as our apartment slowly turned into her filming studio. The living room smelled like a dozen perfume samples mixed with artificial vanilla from her ring light. The walls were plastered with aesthetic mood boards. I'd come home from work to find the dining table covered with perfume bottles she'd only sprayed once for the camera. Everything was surface-level beauty, curated, arranged, exaggerated. And somehow, our relationship became just another aesthetic choice. The day she told me about her brand trip to Europe, I wanted to be happy for her. She said it was her chance to network with other creators, a 3-week journey through Paris, Milan, and Prague, all expenses paid by her growing list of sponsors. I offered to drive her to the airport to help with her luggage. She smiled distractedly, already half on her phone, and said, "Sure, if you want." That morning, I remember how heavy her suitcases were, 3 of them, packed with outfits I'd never seen her wear. I loaded them into the car while she took selfies, adjusting her silk scarf and checking her reflection in the car window. The drive was quiet, the way silence feels before a storm. When we arrived, I grabbed her luggage cart and walked beside her toward the check-in counter. That's when I saw her friends, tall, perfectly styled, smelling like expensive cologne and new fabric. They spotted me, then her, and I could see it, that tiny twitch of judgment, the faint smirk of superiority. Emily froze for a moment, then turned to me, her voice sharp but low. "Okay, stop here," I blinked. "What?" "I'll walk you to security." She sighed like I was a child who didn't understand social cues. "Don't walk with me, Liam. You'll embarrass me in front of my friends." For a moment, everything went still. The noise of the terminal, the rolling wheels, the chatter of announcements, it all faded. It wasn't anger I felt. It was clarity. Suddenly, every subtle insult, every correction, every "can you not wear that shirt in my videos," came crashing back. I wasn't a partner anymore. I was a prop she'd outgrown. I looked at her perfect makeup, her carefully rehearsed confidence, and I realized something. This wasn't love. This was branding. She didn't need me beside her. She needed me to look like I supported her from a safe, invisible distance. So I smiled, nodded, and said, "You're right. I wouldn't want to embarrass you." Then I let go of the cart. "Have a great trip," I said, my voice steady, polite. She stared at me, stunned, waiting for a fight. A scene, some drama she could later share as relationship struggles in a teary vlog. But I gave her nothing. I just turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the middle of the terminal with her curated friends and her curated life. As the sliding doors opened and the cold air hit my face, something inside me shifted. The love I'd carried for her didn't shatter. It simply dissolved. She was leaving for her 3-week dream trip. For me, it was the start of something else entirely. Not revenge, not grief, but a quiet reawakening. By the time I reached the parking lot, my plan had already started forming. If Emily wanted a rebrand, she was about to get one. And this time, I'd be the one writing the story. The drive home from the airport felt strangely peaceful. The city lights reflected off the windshield like scattered stars. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel the pressure of pretending. My hands gripped the steering wheel loosely, my mind racing, not with anger, but with precision. Emily had made her choice in that terminal, and I would make mine now. This wasn't about revenge. It was about closure, about reclaiming what I had quietly lost piece by piece while she built her digital empire. When I pulled into the driveway, our apartment glowed faintly through the curtains, her fairy lights and neon live. Laugh, look sign buzzing faintly against the window. I stepped inside, and the scent of dozens of perfume testers hit me like a wall. It was artificial, heavy, like her world. Bottles lined every surface: midnight whisper, amber mist, Elysian bloom. She had once told me each fragrance was a chapter of her identity. Now it all just smelled like someone else's dream. I walked through each room slowly, deliberately. The bedroom was cluttered with dresses tagged PR gift. The bathroom counter was a battlefield of serums and half-used lipsticks. And in the corner of the spare room, what used to be my workspace, stood her content set up: a ring light, 2 tripods, and a pile of pastel backdrops. I stared at it, and something inside me hardened. This wasn't our home anymore. It was a set. I opened my laptop and began making lists organized, clear, unemotional. Step 1, reclaim what was mine. Step 2, erase what wasn't. The next morning, I drove to the dealership where we'd bought her sleek white SUV, the one she loved to film herself driving in. It was in my name. When the manager recognized me, he smiled. Back for an upgrade. I smiled back, calm. Something like that. By noon, the paperwork was done. The car was gone, and a check sat folded neatly in my jacket pocket. When I returned home, I didn't linger. I called a professional cleaning and removal service. I need everything that isn't mine taken out, I told the operator. Furniture, clothes, cosmetics. The sooner, the better. The woman on the other end hesitated for a moment, then said softly, "Break up." Something like that, I said again. By evening, a team of 4 arrived. They were quick, efficient, and silent. I watched as they packed her curated world into boxes designer heels. Candles labeled tranquility, stacks of unopened PR packages. Every time they sealed a box, I felt the weight of something leave me. It wasn't joy, not yet, but relief, like unclenching a fist that had been tight for too long. While they worked, I turned to the digital side of things. I logged into every shared account, streaming services, cloud storage, even her influencer management platform, which she'd set up using my email. I didn't delete anything. Instead, I changed the passwords and updated the recovery information. She had once told me Everything's about control, Liam. You either have it or you're being managed. Well, she wasn't wrong. When the cleaning crew finished late that night, the apartment looked alien. Empty walls, bare floors, silence. But underneath it all, there was something beautiful. I stood in the doorway of what had been her studio, the air finally free of the cloying perfume haze, and breathed deeply. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The following day, I began rebuilding not for show, but for myself. I bought a sturdy oak desk and set it up near the window. I brought back my old bookshelf from storage, the one she said looked too academic for her aesthetic. I replaced her decorative prints with framed sketches from my travels, things that actually meant something. As the days passed, I started feeling lighter. I met up with friends I hadn't seen in forever, the ones Emily had quietly dismissed as unproductive energy. We grabbed coffee, shared stories, laughed until my stomach hurt. I realized how much of myself I'd put on mute just to keep her world running smoothly. She sent me pictures from Europe, standing under the Eiffel Tower, holding gelato in Rome, smiling with captions like chasing dreams. I stared at them for a moment, then archived them without replying. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't mention us. Her life was still all surface, all projection. As I lay in bed that night, I thought about how she once said, "Scent is memory." Maybe she was right. But now my home smelled clean of air, wood, and something real. And for the first time, I wasn't just cleaning out my space. I was clearing out the illusion of who I thought we were. I knew then what I'd do next. She'd return in 2 weeks, expecting the same man she left behind. Instead, she'd find something else entirely. The day before Emily's flight home, I sat at my desk, our old shared workspace that now felt entirely mine, and drafted an email. It wasn't angry or vengeful. It was neat, professional, and final. The kind of message that doesn't invite a reply. I titled it, "Important Information Regarding Your Return." I read it over once, twice, then began to type, "Emily, as per your request at the airport, I have ceased to be a part of your life. To that end, I've made the following arrangements. Your belongings have been packed and moved to a secure storage facility. The address and access code are listed below. The first month is prepaid. The car you've been driving has been sold. It was registered under my name. The locks on the apartment have been changed. You are no longer a resident. I trust this provides you with the freedom you desired. I'll be traveling for several weeks and won't be reachable. Best." Liam. I sat there for a moment, my finger hovering over the send button. A flicker of memory passed through me, her laughter when she first tried on a sample scent she'd called Velvet Horizon. Her excitement when a small brand reposted her story. The late-night talks about dreams and building something together. For a heartbeat, I felt the ghost of what we used to be. Then, just as quickly, it faded. I pressed send. That night, I packed my own bags, not for a business trip or a vacation with her, but for something simpler, quieter, and infinitely more personal. I'd booked a 2-week motorcycle tour through the mountain roads and coastlines of Southeast Asia. No Wi-Fi, no filters, no hash, just the road, the wind, and the hum of an engine that didn't care about followers. When her plane touched down the next day, I was already thousands of miles away, somewhere between limestone cliffs and the sound of ocean waves slapping against the road's edge. I turned off my phone, Silence has a weight when you're used to constant noise, and for once, I let it surround me completely. 5 days later, curiosity won. I switched my phone back on at a small roadside cafe in the countryside. Notifications exploded across the screen, missed calls, voicemails, hundreds of unread messages. The chaos had unfolded exactly as I'd imagined. Rosie sorry, Emily had landed, expecting me to be waiting at arrivals. When I wasn't there, she'd waited. For an hour. 2, maybe more. Eventually, she took an expensive taxi back to the apartment. And that's where her curated fairy tale cracked wide open. My friend Adam, who lived a floor below, told me the story later through a flood of texts. She showed up with all her luggage, 3 giant, pink suitcases, and tried the key. Didn't work. She tried again. Nothing. Then she started calling you. Over and over. 10 times, maybe more. Then she called her friends, the same ones from the airport, but guess what? Suddenly, they were busy. Couldn't help her. Her parents had to drive all the way from another city to pick her up. It was chaos, man. Pure chaos. He described how she sat on one of her suitcases in silence, mascara streaked down her face, while her mother tried to comfort her, and her father argued with the cab driver. I could picture it all too clearly. The same girl who once demanded to control every frame of her life, now stranded outside her own movie set. That night, the online campaign began. Emily posted a long, emotional caption over a black and white selfie. Sometimes, the people you love the most betray you in ways you never imagined. I gave him everything. He left me with nothing. Her friends reshared it, adding hashtags like hashtag emotional abuse and hashtag homeless and heartbroken. I knew it was coming. I had prepared. Before my trip, I'd messaged a few of our mutual friends, calmly explaining that Emily and I had separated because we wanted different things, and asking them not to believe any dramatic stories. When her public meltdown began, they didn't buy it. They started asking questions. Someone leaked what she'd said at the airport, and the sympathy she'd been fishing for started slipping through her fingers. But the best part, the part that made me laugh, even out there in the middle of nowhere, was what I'd done with her influencer website. I hadn't deleted it. I'd repurposed it. The front page, once filled with her airbrushed portraits and perfume sponsorships, now displayed a single image, a crisp photo of the invoice from the junk removal company, the total circled in red. Below it, I'd written, "Brand undergoing strategic realignment. Please check back soon for updates." Adam later told me someone had sent her a screenshot. She'd completely lost it, crying, screaming, calling her lawyer, demanding her passwords back. A week later, a formal letter arrived from a law firm demanding I restore her property access and financial rights. My lawyer, James, a man who found joy in the sharp edges of legality, sent back a beautifully worded reply with attached documents, proof of ownership for everything, apartment, accounts. He also included a detailed invoice outlining her unpaid share of bills from the past year, which far exceeded any compensation she could claim. We never heard from her lawyer again. By the time my motorcycle tour ended, the noise had died down. Emily's social media went quiet, her page stripped of new posts, her followers fading away. What remained was silence, a silence so complete. It felt like the final note of a long, exhausting song, and in that silence, I found something better than victory. I found peace. 3 months passed. The chaos had become nothing more than a dull echo, screenshots buried deep in message threads, whispers fading from mutual circles. People had moved on, and so had I. Mostly. One morning, while sipping coffee on my balcony, I received an email from a name I hadn't seen in a long time. Rosy Collaborations, Inquiry. For a second, I almost laughed. She's still using that brand name. I clicked it open. Hi Liam, I know this might be unexpected, but I wanted to reach out. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realized I owe you an apology. I was selfish, I was blind, and I hurt someone who truly cared. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Also, I wanted to thank you for handling things so respectfully, even when you had every reason not to. If you're ever open to talking, I'd like that. Emily read it twice, then once more. It was strangely calm, almost humble. But I could see the cracks in between her words, the faint scent of nostalgia mixed with regret. The kind that doesn't come from guilt alone, but from realizing the spotlight she'd traded me for had long since burned out. For a moment, I didn't know what to feel. Anger, pity, a flicker of the old affection that still sometimes haunted my dreams. Instead, I closed the laptop and let out a slow breath. Then I smiled. I didn't reply. Over the next few weeks, I focused on something new, something I'd once only helped her build. A fragrance brand of my own. Not flashy, not filtered, not tied to an influencer's name. I called it Afterlight. Each scent told a story, not of luxury, but of healing. One was named Salted Dawn, inspired by the mornings I spent by the sea on that first solo trip. Another Ghost Light, for the soft traces people leave behind after they're gone. It started small, local markets, word of mouth, quiet photos with no captions. But something strange happened. People resonated with it. The authenticity, the emotion, the vulnerability behind every bottle. Within a year, Afterlight was featured in a small but respected lifestyle magazine. The headline read, "From Heartbreak to Harmony, the man who turned silence into scent." And that's when the final twist came. One evening, I got a call from Adam. He sounded both amused and cautious. "Hey man, you're not gonna believe this. Guess who just applied for a marketing role at your company?" I already knew before he said her name. Emily, according to her resume. She'd rediscovered her passion for authentic storytelling and wanted to help brands connect emotionally with their audience. The irony was so thick I almost choked on my coffee. Adam asked what he should do: reject her immediately, or let HR handle it quietly. I paused for a long moment, then told him, interviewed her. He was confused. "Wait, seriously?" "Yeah," I said. "Give her a chance to explain herself. Just don't tell her I'll be there." The next week, she walked into the minimalist glass office I'd built from nothing. Hair shorter, eyes tired, a polite smile that didn't quite reach. She shook Adam's hand, not realizing that I was sitting at the end of the conference table. When her eyes finally met mine, she froze. For a split second, the confident social persona flickered, and the real Emily appeared. Small, nervous, uncertain. "Liam," she whispered. I smiled, calm and steady. "Good to see you again, Emily. Please, have a seat. Let's talk about your experience." Her hands trembled slightly as she sat down. The silence stretched between us, heavy but strangely familiar, like an echo of the past finally finding its ending. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't need revenge, or closure, or even an apology that came too late. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't destruction, it's becoming everything they thought you couldn't without them. She sat across from me, composed on the outside, but her eyes betrayed her. They flickered between recognition, guilt, and the quiet panic of someone who had spent months rehearsing a meeting that never came, and then finding herself living it for real. Adam, oblivious to the tension, started politely so. "Emily, could you walk us through your last few projects? I see here you've worked with several boutique brands in Europe." She nodded, clearing her throat. "Yes, after my time abroad, I began consulting for smaller creators, helping them develop their online identity, tell their stories more authentically." Her voice faltered slightly on the word authentically. I almost smiled. The irony was too perfect. Adam glanced at me, then leaned back. "Interesting. And what made you apply to Emily looked straight at me now. "Because this brand feels real. There's honesty in the storytelling. It's not trying to sell perfection, it's trying to capture emotion." And that she paused, voice softening. "That's something I've lost for a long time." Her answer was good, too good. But I knew her, the way she could spin sincerity into performance, weave guilt into charm. And yet, this time, something in her tone felt different, smaller. Maybe the months had changed her more than I expected. I folded my hands. "You said you've lost that honesty. What made you realize it?" She hesitated. Her gaze drifted down to the table. "The day I came home and everything was gone," she said quietly. "The apartment, the car, the life I thought I built." A faint, almost broken smile touched her lips. "I thought I could rebuild it, but turns out I'd built everything on someone else's patience. And when that patience was gone, so was the foundation." Adam looked between us, sensing something but not daring to ask. Emily continued, her voice steadying. "It took me months to understand that what I thought was success was actually noise. And the silence you left behind," she glanced up at me, eyes glistening. "That's when I finally heard myself." For a long time, no one spoke. The hum of the air conditioning filled the room like a heartbeat. Then I said, softly, "You've changed your tone. But tell me this, if I hadn't built after light, would you still be here right now?" Her breath caught. "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe not. Maybe I had to see what I lost reflected back at me before I could understand its worth." I nodded slowly. She wasn't pretending this time, and that, somehow, made it harder. After the interview, I walked her to the elevator myself. Adam stayed behind, clearly unsure what to say. The corridor was quiet, glass walls reflecting to people who used to know each other too well, now standing like strangers at the edge of something neither could name. When the elevator arrived, she turned to me. "You built something beautiful, Liam. I'm proud of you." I met her eyes. "I didn't build it because of you, Emily. I built it after you." She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I know." The doors slid open. She stepped inside but turned before they closed. "If you ever need someone to tell your story, I'd still like to help." I smiled faintly. "You already did." The doors shut. I stood there for a long moment, watching the reflection fade. That night, I returned to the lab, the one that smelled faintly of cedar, amber, and memory. On the counter sat a half-finished bottle. I picked it up, wrote a single word on the label, and sealed it carefully. closure. I didn't launch it publicly, didn't post it online. It was never meant for anyone else. It was just for me, a quiet reminder that healing doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it just smells like peace. And as I placed the bottle among the others after light, salted dawn, I realized something simple, profound, and final. She had taught me how to chase light, but I had learned how to live in it.